So, continuing with our theme of bold claims and bold scrutiny, and we ended yesterday with some bold predictions. Today we're going to be talking about bold media and propagation, especially when it comes to exposing tyranny and injustices and sort of the age that we're living in. So without any further ado, take it away, brother.
Thank you. Good morning. It's good to see everybody. We had some questions yesterday. I think it came up more than once. How do we spread our religion? And hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a pretty clear idea on how we... Can everybody hear me in the back too? Yeah? Okay. So we are the call of Imam Mahdi, or the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. We kind of use these words interchangeably. The word call in Arabic is da'wah. It means to call or to invite. So it goes without saying that calling people or inviting people to our religion is a central part of our work, and it's something that gathered us together in the very beginning. Before we start, I'll give you an idea of who I am. I'm a journalist. I've been working as a journalist since I graduated from university. I graduated from the American University in Cairo. I got a master's degree in broadcast journalism. I worked for the Associated Press, Eurovision, AROPL, and actually this was my first job out of university, was covering the Arab Spring. By pure luck, I stepped out of university as the revolution was breaking out, and it was kind of a baptism by fire. And that's me.
That's you?
Yeah. It's somewhere, I think that guy over there in the tent. Aside from my interest in journalism, I also had an interest in religion, especially when it came to the times we were living in and the case of Imam Mahdi, or the issue of Imam Mahdi, or the imminent arrival, which I believed was imminent. And so my presentation is going to cover the technical aspects of the media, as well as some prophecies and some scriptures that really inspired me and kind of showed me that we were living in a time that was prophesied. My journey began, my spiritual journey kind of really took off when I watched a series called The Arrivals on the internet. It was on YouTube back then. It was a huge series. It was super popular, especially in the Muslim world, but everywhere. And it was actually created by the head of our religion, who you can see here, Abdullah Hashim. And this is an Egyptian newspaper. So the series was so popular that the Egyptian newspapers picked it up. It was even repackaged for television in Pakistan. And you can imagine how many people, there's over 1 billion people in Pakistan. So needless to say, it was a very, very popular and influential documentary. And the main theme of the documentary was kind of the end times and the appearance of Imam Mahdi. So it really prepared the ground and the consciousness of a whole generation, really, of Muslims and non-Muslims to the fact that we are living in these times. Now, why do I believe we were living in these times? It's because of prophecies like these that describe the time of Imam Mahdi. And these are written thousands of years ago, over 1,000 years ago, by Muhammad and his successors, peace be upon them. One of them, for example, it says, the iron will fly in the air and iron will walk on iron. So you can imagine they were speaking to people who had no idea about technology. There was, some poetic, maybe metaphor used, but it's very clear to us in this day and age, iron flying in the air is an airplane, iron walking on iron is a train. Another one says, during the age of the Qaim, the believer in the east will see his brother who's in the west, and the believer in the west will see his brother who's in the east. So maybe back then it sounded like magic, but today we know it's just a cell phone. Another one says, when the Qaim appears and his companions come to him, some of them will fly in the clouds. Maybe back then it sounded also like magic, but today we know that we have airplanes, people are flying in the clouds all the time. So yesterday somebody brought up the topic of where was the Imam for the last 1400 years, and I think Dr. Arfan answered he was waiting for a right time. And I think that it wasn't just waiting for the right people, but also for the right technologies that he would be able to use to spread his mission, basically. Another prophecy from Imam Ali, he says, I shall build a platform in Egypt. His companion asked, it is as if you're saying you shall come back to life after your death. And the Imam said, no, it's not me, but somebody from me. The important thing that I wanted to point out here is the word platform. You see here what people back then would have considered a platform, but today we use the word platform for social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, we call them platforms. So perhaps Imam Ali knew that, and he was talking, rather than a physical platform, he was talking about a media platform. And this actually took place because when Abdullah Hashim made the arrivals and when he found Imam Ahmad al-Hassan and he began to propagate the message and people began to join him, learn from him, and also propagate the message, this prophecy came true because now you had a group of people in Egypt who were gathering and they were spreading the message of Imam Mahdi. It was a platform in Egypt, but it was a media platform. So this is the reason to answer also a question from yesterday of why do people believe in this call, why do people believe in this religion. It's when you see all these words that were written down so long ago coming true, I mean, a person can't help but to stop and really think about what's happening here. After this speech was aired on satellite, it was also aired on the YouTube channel, The Mahdi Has Appeared. This is our YouTube channel. It's one of the ways where we spread the religion. It's a YouTube channel where our leader himself talks and gives lectures and gives teachings. It's also a technology that none of the prophets or messengers ever had access to. Jesus did not have access to these kind of technologies, neither did Muhammad, neither did any of them. And it was during their lifetimes, they were not really able to spread their message to the whole world. It was only after their death, after generations had passed, that really the whole world had heard about Prophet Muhammad or about Jesus or about Moses. But today we have an opportunity that we've never had before, which is using these technologies, we're able to transfer the message of the Imam directly to all the four corners of the earth. And as I said, we're working on translating using AI technology and dubbing to really make sure that we don't miss a single person. And this too was not lost on the family of Muhammad when they said, when our Qaim rises, and I think you know by now the word Qaim and who the Qaim is, God Almighty will extend for our Shia their hearing and sight, so that there will be no veil between them. And the Qaim, he will speak to them, and they will hear him and see him while he is in his place. So this is super interesting. They're saying that in the future, when the Qaim comes, he's going to be able to talk to his followers wherever they are from his place. He won't have to move, he won't have to travel. They will be able to see him. Again, maybe back then they didn't understand how this would happen. Is this a crystal ball, or is this some kind of astral projection? No, it's technology. Here's some statistics from the YouTube page, which is extremely popular, and it's continuing to gain popularity every day. We've had over 8 million channel views. And here's a clip. It's a 60-second clip from one of the lectures, but it's such an important clip. If you're familiar with the Bible, there's a scene where Jesus, in the synagogue, he opens the scroll of Isaiah, he pulls out the prophecy that mentions him and he says, "This is me, today the scriptures have been completed." This is kind of the modern equivalent to that. But it was not seen by just a crowd in a synagogue, but it was seen by over 1 million people just on this clip alone. And I'll play that for you real quick.
I am a messenger to the Muslims from Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam and from Ahmad al-Hassan the Yamani alayhi salam. I am a messenger to the Christians from Jesus, the son of Mary. And I am a messenger to the Jews from Elijah. I am inviting you to the 7th and final covenant between God and mankind. Accepting this covenant is the only thing that will save you from the punishment which is about to come down upon mankind.
So, as you see, it's a very historic moment, and it was able to be seen not generations after the Prophet, but instantaneously after the words were spoken. It was able to spread to the 4 corners of the globe. Here's some of the platforms that we use in order to propagate the message. So we can get a little bit technical here. We have obviously YouTube channels in many different languages. We use Instagram. Telegram is a great platform where people can interact directly with us and we can answer their questions. Facebook, Twitter or X. This is a satellite channel. So we actually have a satellite channel which is broadcasting in the Middle East on Nilesat. We're able to broadcast to over 160 million homes from Morocco to Pakistan, all the way down to South Sudan, and even covering a little bit of Southern Europe. We use TikTok and popular podcasting platforms. So we take the audio from the lectures and we release them to as podcasts. Some of our work as a studio include interviews with celebrities. We've interviewed Sean Stone, the filmmaker, the son of Oliver Stone. We've interviewed Eric von Däniken, who's the best-selling author of Chariots of the Gods. The infamous David Icke, who you can see here with The Goal of the Wise, and Peter Tatchell, the human rights activist. I'd like to share some of the highlights of our media work over the last year. Obviously, this was a big event, which you've heard about from the lecture of Hadil, the human rights lecture. I'd like to give you a perspective of how we covered it as a media channel. And this was the 104 asylum seekers who walked to the Turkish-Bulgarian border in order to claim legal asylum. And when we heard that they were going to do this, we immediately sent 2 of our journalists from here to Turkey to live stream the entire thing back to our studio, and we broadcasted it from the studio over the internet and over the satellite channel. Here's some of the coverage from that day.
I mean, again, their stance is so clear. We're not going back. Go back to what? Go back to death? Yes. Go back to execution? Go back here. This is Leila, whose family tied her up and force-fed her antipsychotic. Look at that moment. Look at that. Wow.
This is such a touching moment. We talked about Leila. We saw her heartfelt testimony after this. Look at these.
I love you so much. You are in my heart, really.
She deserves protection. She deserves to live a life of safety.
Different gate. Hey, this is happening, guys. The Turkish police are now walking them to a different gate. They're going to let them through.
They will.
They're going to let them through. Right now, look, we hope so. The Turkish police right now, we really hope they're going to let them through.
They're walking with them.
Yes, they're walking with them. Right now, they are not showing any sign of aggression that we see.
So as you can see, I mean, we were very hopeful that morning. We had a lot of mixed emotions. It was emotional over there. It was emotional in the studio. We didn't really know what was going to happen, and we were watching the events unfold in real time. And as you know, it didn't turn out so good for the asylum seekers. They were illegally pushed back from the border. They were beaten. They were detained. But the good news is that we were there to film everything. And here's some of our coverage from that moment.
And on the 24th of May, over 100 men, women and children were deeply shocked.
Innocent men, women, and children were brutally beaten, shot at, apprehended, and taken to the Edirne Public Safety Office.
When the Turkish border police responded to these persecuted refugees with violence, threats, and detainment, these hunted down and traumatized men, women, and children are all members of the religious minority called the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. They received this foul treatment from the Turkish border police, who detained them. The Turkish border police treated these persecuted members this way.
They just made a big political mistake and a big mistake against humanity, because now they are publicly been captured on film doing what they did yesterday, breaking the law, and now all these organizations and all these different countries are involved. I'm sure they're in a mess right now. I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to sort this out. Apologize for your clear error. I mean, certainly, I think a statement needs to be issued, a true statement. You know, Hurriyet and all the statewide official outlets and the government themselves and the mayor, they need to come out, because the mayor issued a statement too. You know, that was the proportional response. You know, he should come back out and say, you know what, look, we made a tragic mistake. We have acted as we have always acted before, and we did not give this matter the chance and the look that it should have had. These individuals are persecuted. These individuals were not aggressive. They were not invading anything. They were just trying to get out of here to safety, and we've assessed the situation now. We've worked with the different human rights organizations and their attorneys, and we are now stamping their approval and giving them safe passage to Bulgaria. This is what I hope to hear.
Yeah, so as Professor Asfar said, you know, our job is to spread the message, but also to expose tyrannical Middle Eastern governments, and that really showed, the power of our media really showed in this moment, because after this was caught on camera and after the 104 were detained, we were able to use that footage to drum up interest in other media outlets, and these are some of the outlets that covered the story, and as you know too, the human rights organizations, and it's because we were able to capture that moment that Turkey was in a very awkward situation where they weren't able to twist the story or to show the 104 in a bad light, but they had to admit finally that they didn't do anything illegal. And eventually, after 5 months, they released them with no charges. We were also there in Malaysia to live stream the LGBT protest that Kashfullah and Bukhari and Kashfullah wasn't there, but he's the bishop of that congregation. They were out there protesting, and here is our coverage from that day.
July 29th marked the day when 8 peaceful protesters, merely holding up signs, managed to send shockwaves throughout Malaysia, causing a nationwide stir in an incident that went viral locally and internationally.
Polis menahan 8 individu menyertai perhimpunan berkaitan hak LGBTQ.
8 lelaki yang berhimpun di hadapan pusat beli belah Sogo.
8 individu dicekup pihak berkuasa selepas disyaki terlibat dengan ajaran Ahmadi religion.
Malaysian authorities had cracked down on the first LGBT+ solidarity protest in Malaysia in years, apprehending and mass arresting 8 protesters in front of a cheering crowd. The protesters are members of a persecuted religious minority, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, who were expressing solidarity with the LGBT+ community and condemning forms of persecution against them. They were holding up placards that read, "Gay people are not criminals. Being gay is not a crime, and people should not be persecuted because of their sexual orientation." And they were chanting, "Down, down Sharia court, only God can judge," a slogan that became iconic of their brave humanitarian stance.
Down, down Sharia court!
They were detained for a total of 48 hours, intensively questioned about their religious beliefs, and charged with serious civil and religious offenses, which can see them jailed for many years. The incident, caught on live footage, was covered by Malaysia's prime TV stations and went viral on social media and local media outlets, prompting the Kuala Lumpur police chief to come out with a press statement.
6 tahun yang telah menyertai perhimpunan yang mengatakan bahawa di Malaysia ini hak-hak LGBT disekat, ya.
Following this, major international news agencies like The Independent, BNN, Pink News, and others have reported on the incident. The story then escalated on a major level with the Prime Minister's Office of Religious Affairs publicly condemning the protest and cautioning the Malaysian people against imitating the protesters amid public condemnation by the Sharia court. Iconic human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, who is known for his lifelong service to human rights campaigns globally and in Malaysia for many decades, was deeply disturbed by this and adopted the case.
What is particularly brave and quite exceptional is the way in which the Ahmadi religion of peace and light has taken a stand very explicitly, not only welcoming LGBT plus people as members of the faith, but also publicly, in this case, defending their human rights. I cannot think of any other Muslim-based religion that has done that. There are, of course, individual Muslims and even some individual Muslim clerics who have spoken out for LGBT plus rights, but not as a religion as a whole.
Yeah. And
as far as I'm aware, this is the first time a Muslim-based religious group has stood in direct solidarity with the LGBT plus community. There have been individual Muslims, but not the faith, a particular faith as such. So this is a first, and it's a shining light and beacon for Muslims around the world to know that there is a branch of Islam, a Muslim faith, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, that does not stand on the side of oppression and discrimination. That's really important for Muslims all across the world to know that being Muslim does not necessarily require you, or should not require you, to be homophobic, biphobic, or transphobic.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's through the media that we're able to not just spread our religion, but to, I guess, for lack of a better word, really bother some people, like the Malaysian government, who are still fighting us daily. This is a recent article that was on the front page of our newspaper denouncing our religion, calling us heretics, saying that they're worried that the youth is being seduced by our message. And this is the Minister of Religious Affairs coming out to respond to a TikTok video that we made, and I'll save you the having to watch it. This is the TikTok in question, and here's another article. So I call this slide the power of truth because it's not just the power of the media. The media is just a way to transfer information, but what really matters is the information and the message, and we believe that we have a very powerful message, and I think it's evident too with the reaction and the way that these governments are threatened by our existence. And I also know that it's a powerful message because on a daily basis we receive feedback from people from all around the world who are joining the religion and who are pledging allegiance. And I'd like to show you a little collage of that.
Hello and salam alaikum. My name is Stacy.
I am here to pledge allegiance to Aba Al-Sadiq.
I pledge my allegiance to Aba Al-Sadiq.
I pledge my allegiance.
And I bear witness that there is no God but Allah.
Doy testimonio que no hay Dios más que Dios.
وأشهد أن علي والأئمة من ولده.
Doy testimonio de que Al-Mahdi y los Mahdis.
Aba Al-Sadiq هو الحق.
Thank you, Master Abu Sadiq.
Aba Al-Sadiq, peace and blessings to you.
Doy testimonio. Always pledge our allegiance to the Prophet God.
I hope to have the joy of meeting you.
Aba Al-Sadiq حق.
Allah'a emanet olun.
Thank you so much.
Rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
It is filled with much rejoicing.
Hermanos, saludos. Les habla Javier.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اللهم صل على محمد.
So the reaction has really been quite overwhelming, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of the people who have showed their support for us. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with Millie.
Oh. No, this is really fascinating, the technological instruments that you are using for various purposes, in fact. First, to communicate about your faith, and I have a number of questions. I have more questions than things to share.
I like questions.
To share with you. My first question is, of course, every religion wants to share the message with the whole world, but now with the AI and other instruments that you have explained, it's possible in all the languages of the world. But are there any negative reactions coming back to you from people in various countries that receive your message, either at the level of the authorities? Is there any sort of censorship, maybe, in some countries?
Sure.
China, Russia, Malaysia, etc. And from the, let's say, the normal viewers who suddenly come across your message and then are violent, maybe, in their reactions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, on the level of government, Malaysia, they've banned our channels, they banned our website. So if you are in Malaysia, you don't have access anymore to Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light TikTok channel or the official website. We still manage to use Telegram, some technologies that they haven't been able to shut down, but definitely. In terms of the second question, obviously there's overwhelmingly negative reactions from mainly Muslims. I think we've all seen in the past how reactive Muslims can be when it comes to somebody claiming to be Imam Mahdi, or somebody claiming that there's a prophet after Muhammad, or somebody claiming that the Quran is corrupt, or that somebody claiming that the rules and the laws of Islam have now changed. So you just have to go to our YouTube page and look at the comments section. It's overwhelmingly negative. We receive death threats on a daily basis. And yeah.
Have you an estimate of the number of viewers that you have in country by country, let's say?
Yeah, so for example, and this is just the main YouTube channel. So like I said, we have multiple channels in different languages, but the main YouTube channel of Aba Al-Sadiq, we have here, you can see the top geographies are 18% United States, 17% the United Kingdom, India is a big one, Canada and Malaysia. So those are the top 5 geographies for that main channel. But like I said, we have a satellite channel, and it's difficult to know the number of viewers on the satellite channel because you're just broadcasting and there's really no feedback mechanism unless you go house to house and do a survey.
And it's possible that United States data is false. I mean, my own magazine, we have 70% readers in United States, but that's not true, because that includes all those in the countries where we are banned, like China and Russia, and they use VPN and pretend to be in the United States. So our 70% US is probably a good half, since we cover half of our it's in China.
Well, that's very interesting. And yeah, it's possible. I mean, I know countries like Iran, for example, there's a total censorship on all types of social media over there. If we go back to this video, and I won't play it all the way again. I hope I can. But if you look, you find Canada, USA, but you also find Sudan, and you find Yemen. And those particular cases, I added them because I know for a fact that they have come through the satellite channel. They don't have access to good internet, high-speed internet over there for streaming. So they are watching on the Nilesat, which is a free-to-air technology. all you need is a satellite dish and a TV. It's like a one-time payment, and then you have free TV. So I know for a fact that we have many people like this family in Iraq who are watching from the satellite channel, but it's hard to give an exact number. But in terms of the YouTube page, I mean, like I showed here, we have just on the channel alone, 8 million channel views. This was a couple of weeks ago when I was preparing the presentation. And on TikTok, we have many millions on this account and many millions on the Malaysian account and many millions on the Spanish account. So it's hard to really gather all the numbers, but they're in the millions of viewers.
Yeah, but mainly in democratic countries.
Over the internet, mainly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another point of your media say freedom of expression activities is the demonstrations, the public demonstrations that you have held in some countries, sometimes under threat, of course, about the LGBT issues and so on. Also saying down with the Sharia courts.
Yeah.
I think these are good messages for the public opinion in general, because this can be multiplied by various other actors like NGOs, other journalists, and so on. And the next and last point is your information service activity. I would say in a printed way, no, in a written way, like press releases. Could you give us some more information about that? Because there are so many events that we heard from Hadil's presentation yesterday happening a bit everywhere. Court processes, decisions, people beaten in Turkey that we covered as well. How do you work with this section of your information system?
Yeah. So first of all, for the first point that you made, I mean, I totally agree. You know, our movement is a courageous one, and our message it's a difficult one, and it requires a little bit of boldness and fearlessness to go out in Malaysia, a country that's so anti-LGBTQ and who's using these courts. And I think that was the second part of why they went out to protest, is they're condemning people in the name of God, and we don't believe that God condemns these people. So it's in support of the LGBTQ community, and it's also against people using God. If you want to pass judgment from your own self, that's one thing, but to bring God into it, I think we're against that, and it's clear that we're against that. So the supporters, the Ansar, they've been very courageous. They've been very brave. In other countries too, in Morocco, we've had people arrested out on the street. In Turkey, other than the 104, we've had one guy, Haidar, who was arrested in Turkey and then released later. So that's for the first part. In terms of press releases, we have worked, especially after the 104, we put together a media team, and we just picked up the phone call. We picked up the phone and we just called people from morning till night to get this case attention in the media. And unfortunately, the media is a little bit of a cartel. And if you don't really know somebody, or if you don't really have the proper contacts, it's very difficult to even get anyone to pick up the phone. So there was a lot of legwork, there was a lot of pushing, there was a lot of calling, there was a lot of calling again until people began to find it difficult to ignore us. And I mean, as a journalist, this was a big story. I don't think that any other channel has ever live streamed 104 asylum seekers trying to cross legally. You know, we've seen the footage of refugees arriving on boats in Lesbos, or the famous scenes where they're walking across Hungary, but nobody has ever tried to show what happens if people follow the legal routes. And I think this was unprecedented, and it really kind of embarrassed everybody who says, oh, if only they would come from the border, we would let them in. Why do they have to use illegal methods? So for me, this was a huge story, and I was very disappointed but not surprised in the media institution, because I know I've worked in it for a long time and I know how it works. It is a little bit of a closed circle, and but I mean, once you get your foot in the door, it becomes a little bit easier. So now, obviously, before an event, press releases are sent out to these contacts. I think in Malaysia too, there was some local journalists on the street, and we managed to make the 6 o'clock news and the 9 o'clock news over there in Malaysia after that protest. Not in a favorable light, but hey, there's no bad publicity, right?
All right, thank you so much. It looks like you don't want a break, but I will give you one. So, thank you so much.